I became a fan of Def Leppard in about 2006. I was probably 11 at the time and would watch this thing on VH1 Classic called Metal Mania, mostly hoping to see Kiss music videos. In May 2006, the channel did this kind of metal month, which was just showing rock and metal related programming throughout the entire month, leading up to the first VH1 Rock Honors, which was a program that just honored a few different bands, one of which being Kiss, which is the reason I was excited. One of the other bands was Def Leppard. So throughout that month, I saw a handful of their classic music videos, the TV biopic made about them, and their performance on Rock Honors, and I was hooked. My mom owned their big three 80s CDs, High and Dry, Pyromania, and Hysteria. So I started with those and then made my way through the catalog as I could find them. Def Leppard has released, depending on who you ask, 12 or 13 studio albums. The 1993 Retroactive album is kind of a compilation album, but it's not a greatest hits thing, and Spotify lists it as part of their albums, not as a compilation. So I'm counting it as a proper studio album, even though it's kinda not. So I'm going to rank these albums from my least favorite to my favorite. But before we get started, be sure to like and subscribe, and you can support the channel on Patreon. Number 13, X, or 10. Released in 2002, this was produced by Pete Woodruff, Def Leppard, Per Aldram, Aldreas Carlson, and Marty Fredriksson. This is one of the first albums I found used at a CD trade post, and I enjoyed it quite a bit at the time. This would have been around 2006, 2007. It's very pop. They basically went all in on that direction, and some of it does work. There's catchy choruses and quite a few songs I really like. But the album is long, too long. There's quite a few filler tracks, and it's not quite as punchy as I like Def Leppard albums to be. But it's not awful or anything. It's just a little padded and corny in spots. Number 12, Retroactive. Released in 1993, this was produced by Def Leppard and Pete Woodruff. This is the one that kind of doesn't count. It's a collection of B-sides and previously unreleased material re-recorded. This is the album besides the brand new one that I've probably heard the least. There is some great stuff on this. Two Steps Behind is of course an all-time classic. I really like Miss You in a Heartbeat and From the Inside, but there's quite a bit of filler and it's inconsistent. Just naturally being B-sides and leftovers. It's pretty random, but still some really strong stuff. Hello, America! Hello, America! Number 11, On Through the Night. Released in 1980, this was produced by Tom Allom. This is the band's debut album, and it's also one I haven't listened to a whole lot. It just never really connected with me. The production is a little small, and I think there's quite a bit of filler. But there is some really great guitar stuff throughout. Re-listening to these first couple Def Leppard albums really gave me a new appreciation for how good Steve Clark really was. Number 10, High and Dry. Released in 1981, this was produced by Mutt Lange, who really did have a profound effect on the band. The production is a lot better with a more full sound, and it feels like Lange pushed the band into some songwriting. I'd say I love about half of the album. The title track, Bringing on the Heartbreak, Let It Go, Mirror Mirror, and On Through the Night are all great. But the other half I'm not as crazy about. Not bad, but that's why this one ranks a little low. Number 9, Def Leppard. Released in 2015, this was produced by Rona McHugh and Def Leppard. I remember being really happy in 2015 that a new Def Leppard was coming out and buying the CD at Target. And I really loved it at the time. There's quite a few songs on here that are super catchy, and as soon as I hear them are just endlessly stuck in my head. Re-listening for this video, there's a lot I still love, but there are a few filler tracks. I feel like a 10-track version of this would have been incredible. There's a nice variety to the album, but it remains consistent, It's very Def Leppard, hence why it's called that. Very good album, just not as strong as some others. That's kind of what makes ranking Def Leppard a little hard, at least for me, is I don't think they've made a bad album. Number 8, Yeah. Released in 2006, this was produced by Def Leppard and Ron McHugh. This is a covers album, and it's one of the first albums I found when I started going through the catalog, as it was their latest release at the time. I was volunteering at a library in summer 2006. They had it, so I checked it out, burned myself a copy, and then returned it. I loved it at the time, and it's definitely still an album I have a lot of nostalgic fondness for. It's a great selection of songs with some not so obvious choices. They add their personality to it while still being faithful. This is probably my favorite covers album. Number 7, Diamond Star Halos. Released in 2022, this is produced by Ron McHugh and Def Leppard. It is obviously their latest release. Just came out about a month ago, time of recording. It is a sort of tribute to bands that inspire Def Leppard, stuff like Queen and David Bowie, and I think it's very good at that. It's a very good and fun, catchy record. It might be recency bias that has it ranked so high, but I do think it's cool that the band can still put out strong, fun material. Number 6, Euphoria. Released in 1999, this was produced by Pete Woodruff and Def Leppard. Mutt Lange also returned to contribute to 3 tracks. This is another one I found in the 2000s at a CD trade post, probably 2006-2007, and I really loved it at the time. I was instantly hooked on Promises and Goodbye. There's a lot of great stuff on this. Demolition Man is a terrific opener, but there are 2 songs I really don't like. All Night and 21st Century Sha La 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 Girl. Those are easily my least favorite Def Leppard songs, and if it wasn't for them, this album would probably be ranked a lot higher. Number 5, Slang. Released in 1996, this was produced by Pete Woodruff and Def Leppard. This was their attempt to be more contemporary at the time. The band was going through some tough stuff, so they decided to write darker and more grown-up material. I had actually not heard this entire album until 2014 when they put out the deluxe edition. I had only heard like 2 or 3 songs prior to that. I really loved it and still do. There's a lot of really great guitar work. There's fun Def Leppard stuff like the title track, but I also really like the darker material. The lyrics are really strong and there's just some really interesting songs. I think this is a very underrated album. I think it's really good. Though I do think Move With Me Slowly should have been included on the album proper and not just as a bonus track. I love that song. Number 4, Songs from the Sparkle Lounge. Released in 2008, this was produced by Ronan McHugh and Def Leppard. This was an album written on the road, the title referring to their rehearsal room. I remember being really excited about this album back in 2008. A lot of older bands I was into at the time were releasing new albums. Metallica, Motley Crue, AC/DC, Def Leppard, Ace Frehley, and of course Kiss. It was a really exciting time, and I just loved this album. I listened to it all the time. I actually hadn't listened to it in a while before this video, but re-listening to it again, I still love it. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but I think this is great. It's really big and almost epic in places like Go and Love. I think it's a phenomenal album.
Do we want to get right?
Number 3, Adrenalize. Released in 1992, this was produced by Mike Shipley and Def Leppard. It was recorded in the wake of Steve Clark's death, though they decided not to replace him during the recording process. It is also the first album since the first not to be produced by Mutt Lange, though he still does have an executive producer credit and co-wrote pretty much every song. This is another one I got at CD Trade Post, and it's really grown on me. I think this is a terrific album. Every song works. Great stuff. Number 2, Pyromania. Released in 1983, this was produced by Mutt Lange. During the recording of the album, original guitarist Pete Willis was fired and replaced by Phil Collen, who came in to do solos and overdubs. I don't think I need to say that it's a great rock album. It's sold like crazy. Everyone knows the material. It's one of those albums where just everything came together and just works. Number 1, Hysteria. Released in 1987, this was produced by Mutt Lange. He initially didn't want to produce. Jim Steinman was brought in instead, but those sessions didn't go well. Def Leppard then tried to produce themselves, but the recording had to come to a halt when drummer Rick Allen lost his left arm in a car accident. The band stuck by him as an electronic drum kit was developed to allow him to play with one arm, and Lange eventually returned as well, with the intention of making a rock and roller heavy metal thriller, an album where every song could be a hit single. They more than accomplished that. The album spawned 7 hit singles and has sold well over 20 million copies worldwide. It's a really incredible album. I love every single song. This is just incredible material and probably one of my favorite albums ever. So that's my ranking. Def Leppard is one of my favorite bands ever, probably second or maybe third. So this was a super fun thing to do. Let me know what your ranking is, what you think of these individual albums, and thank you for watching.